I ended up losing the apartment, and I ended up talking this guy in, letting me move into his place. Told him we'd split the bills, and next thing I know, I'm living in the garage, sleeping on the couch, and I thought that was cool, you know. I remember every morning lift the garage door open and just drink and watch people go by, you know, and stuff. And then finally he threw me out. But ended up DUI and lost the truck and all that stuff. The bottom line is, that's enough of that. Sometime around the 4th of July, I remember like it was yesterday. And I had that magic moment of what I call total defeat. All at once, I couldn't go no further. And I was sitting in Merced, in an apartment complex, in the bushes, and everything was gone. The kids were gone, the old ladies were gone. I owed everybody in the world money. I didn't have a driver's license. I had warrants for my arrest, you name it. And I sat down there and I was scrounging change at that time. And I had a tall can of natural light in a paper bag. And I remember sitting there like this, and I got a beard down to here. I hadn't took a bath in a month. I'm 150 pounds, and I'm dying. And I looked down at that natural light can in that bag, and I said, son of a bitch. And just like that, all these voices started running through my head. I could hear my parents and other family members and the kids and my ex-wife, mediators and lawyers, and telling me, you've got to do something about your drinking or you ain't going to have nothing. Yeah. I'm very, very grateful for that moment. I still think it was a gift, believe it or not, you know. And I'd already been in a couple of treatment programs, you know. I didn't know what to do. It was an awful feeling. I couldn't think of one person that wanted me around. A guy walks by, what a miracle, he's got a cell phone and he lets me use it. And I make a phone call to a friend that I had met in a treatment center years back up in San Francisco. And then he gave me another number to a guy by the name of Jim Cody, and God bless him, he's dead now. I went up there and got my 2-year chip, but I wanted to go get my 5 this summer. But he answered, and I said, Jim, this is Joe, I'm in trouble. And he said, damn it, you gonna listen to me this time? I said, I'll do anything. He said, give me an address, we're coming to get you. And so at that point I called my aunt real fast and I told her, hey, I'm gonna be picked up at your house, can you come get me? Not borrowing money, no nothing. I just need a place to get picked up. And so my uncle came over and got me, and phenomenon of craving is just kicking in. I need a drink, you know. I'm not drinking to escape. I'm not drinking, it's not for the taste. I'm not drinking for a behavior problem. I'm drinking to satisfy a craving beyond my mental control. And so I get into detox there in San Francisco and a place called Turning Point. And on July 9th, 2011, I woke up in detox. They said I'd been asleep for 3 days. Bed soaking wet. That was an awful feeling. Yeah. And I didn't know what to do, you know. I tried AA. It didn't work. I went to those programs and they told me to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, all that stuff, and it just didn't work. I just didn't have no faith in AA at all. The only thing I could think of was, I'm really, really going to try this time. You know? And my mom's like, Joey, as soon as you get done with that little deal there, I was there a couple of weeks, She said, let's move you up to Oregon and let's start you a new life. And I said, sounds good to me, you know. I don't know. I ended up in this sober living house there in Santa Rosa, going to meetings. Nothing's making sense. You know, had sponsors. Who knows? Maybe I wasn't listening, or maybe they didn't know nothing. You know. But I get a call from the union about probably 90 days into it. And they said, you ain't gonna believe this, but we got you your job back. Yeah. And I was just so scared to come back to Merced. I said, there's no way I can stay sober in Merced. You know. And then I'm thinking, but shit, I ain't got no money. So I talked to my aunt. My aunt said, well, you can come stay with me, and I'll drive you to work, and you can catch a ride home with the guys. Maybe pay somebody gas money or whatever until you get on your feet. But one drink, you're out. And that fear kept me sober, believe it or not. And life became very, very uncomfortable. Toward a softer, easier way, rather than pick up a drink, was to go off myself. And my aunt pulled me to the side. You know, Alcoholics Anonymous in them days, it was real anonymous, you know. You had to know somebody to get in. All this time I got drinking problems and all this stuff I'm going through, and she never sits down to tell me about this story that she told me. And she hands me an old second edition. Old second edition, man. And tells me a story about how my grandpa was an alcoholic. How two men came and got him. And he was about to lose his job at the Air Force. And two guys came and got him. And how much it had done for him. And she told me about an amends. He had walked all the way to South Dakota to make an amends, you know, in uniform. In them days, they'd pick you up, you know. She was telling me all this stuff, and it was putting ideas in my head at the same time. And I remember my grandpa, you know, I don't know. But anyway, I started reading that book, and I would see some stuff in there, and I'd say, yeah, but I don't know, you know. And at one point, I started to get real honest with myself, because I forgot to mention that all I was doing was blaming everybody else. You know, if my parents hadn't got a divorce and took care of me, you know, if I hadn't joined the Army, you know, if the old lady would just come back, I could stop, you know. And I had all these excuses. And I remember sitting in the backyard of my aunt's house with the book and starting to get honest right then and there. You know, it's all been a gift to me. It's nothing I've done, you know. And I started to say stuff to myself like, you know, you keep telling yourself if your wife comes home, you can stop. But when she was home, you couldn't stop, you know. And weren't you drinking before the Army? How can you blame it on the Army if you were already drinking? I started saying that stuff to myself. And that was the first, you know, if you look at our program, when it says that people who can't seem to get this thing, it's the ones that can't get honest with themselves. And thank God I was doing that. And sometime around Mother's Day, I still remember it, I went into Beechwood, and I'd been hanging out there a little bit here and there. My aunt would drive and drop me off. And just miserable, real depressed. And Mother's Day was coming up, and I remember thinking, I always hated Mother's Day, you know, because I resented my mom so bad. And it's stupid stuff, but I resented my mom so bad, and I resented my ex-wife so bad, and all I kept thinking about was she gets to see the kids, and I don't, and all that that stuff. And I began to get very, very, very depressed. And I began seeking something at that point, I can tell you. I got a lot of brain damage, so I'm trying to get back into where I was at that day. I walked into Beechwood, and I felt like offing myself. And nothing made sense to me. I had a guy say, go get a 12 and 12, you know. Nothing made sense to me. And there was a guy there who I believe God put him in my life, you know. For some reason, I listened to this guy. And he said 7 words one day when he shared. I still remember it. I'm sitting in the corner, he's at the table, and he says, alcoholism is you want to drink even when you don't want to drink. And I thought, that's exactly how I feel right now. I don't want to drink, but I have to drink. You know? And I went home and I studied that book, and I started from the beginning. And I got into that doctor's opinion, which is a fact to me. And one thing stood out. I'm trying to compare myself to the types and all that stuff. But one thing that will stand out to every alcoholic, I've known this since my first drink. That's the great sense and ease and comfort that comes at once by a couple of drinks. And then all of a sudden I get real, real thirsty. And I'm no longer drinking for that ease and comfort anymore. I'm no longer trying to escape. That these allergic types have one thing in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving that only we alcoholics know. I've known that craving my whole life, but for the first time saw it. You know. And just like that, I took the first step. I saw where I was completely hopeless, that I would drink again no matter what, and that I couldn't stop no matter what. And just like that, I suddenly needed and wanted God. And it's just like that book tells us in the chapter 2 of the Agnostic, that the second we can set aside any prejudice with even a willingness, not even enough willingness, even a willingness. That's about the size of a gnat. The second we can set aside prejudice and have even a willingness to seek a power greater than ourselves, we commence to get results. And I felt the presence of God right then and there. Amen. And I made a decision right then and there. And I opened up that book and got on my knees and I read that 3rd-step prayer. I didn't even have a sponsor. I'm too scared to get one.